I don't think these people understand anything. As you know, the 26 front-bench ministers, I think only 3 of them have got what I would describe as sketchy business experience at best. So they spout off about all these employment rights and everything else. They haven't got a clue about what's going on. Starmer then starts talking about British troops on the ground in Ukraine. The fact of the matter is, Mike, that he just doesn't understand that in the end, it's an economy that wins wars. It's an economy that keeps the country safe. And if you don't get long-term investment into your economy, and Labour are doing absolutely everything they can to stop long-term investment, to stop employment, to stop people taking risks, ultimately, the economy is going to turn down, sterling is going to weaken, and we're going to be in a terrible position. So I think what people are doing is increasingly turning to reform. What we've got to do is make sure that when we win the election, which I've said consistently we will, we have to be ready. What we can't do is win the election and then let the British public down. So we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to prepare, I think, to restore common sense. He called us far right then. They keep calling us far right. Yeah. They call the AfD in Germany far right. They're not. They are being elected by the people because the people have had enough of mass immigration, of unaccountable government, of socialism, of this post-war globalist sort of plan, which has clearly failed. And what they're trying to do now is take back their nation state and actually make some sort of sense of the way in which their communities are run, the way in which their companies are run, and frankly, Mike, the way in which their country is run. Yeah. I can tell you something. Not only is Keir Starmer the most duplicitous man I've ever seen as a Prime Minister, probably close second to Tony Blair. Yeah. But I actually think, he is more left-wing than Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn says what he thinks.
Rupert Lowe has launched a scathing attack on Keir Starmer following the Prime Minister's recent speech, in which he labelled Reform UK as far right. In a blunt and unapologetic statement, Lowe condemned Starmer and the political establishment, arguing that these people don't understand anything. His words reflect a growing sentiment among the British public. Frustration with a detached political elite that seems more concerned with ideological grandstanding than addressing the real problems facing the country. Keir Starmer's desperate attempt to smear Reform UK as far right is not just inaccurate. It is emblematic of his party's intellectual laziness and inability to engage in meaningful debate. Rather than confronting the reasons why so many voters are turning away from Labour and the Conservatives, Starmer resorts to the tired, predictable tactic of slapping meaningless labels on his political opponent. It's a transparent attempt to discredit a movement that is gaining traction precisely because the mainstream parties have failed so spectacularly. Under Starmer's leadership, Labour has become a party of hollow rhetoric, incapable of delivering real solutions. His tenure has been marked by weak leadership, an obsession with political correctness, and a complete disregard for the concerns of ordinary people. Instead of offering a vision that resonates with working-class Britons, Starmer clings to the elitist, metropolitan bubble that defines his party's modern identity. Out of touch, condescending, and utterly ineffective, his fixation on virtue, signaling and pandering to progressive activists, has left Labour devoid of any real substance, making it indistinguishable from the failing Conservative government it seeks to replace. Meanwhile, Reform UK continues to gain momentum because it offers something that neither Labour nor the Tories can: common-sense policies that put Britain and its people first. Rupert Lowe is absolutely right to assert that the tide is turning. People are tired of politicians like Starmer who prioritize ideological purity over practical governance. The reason voters are flocking to reform is not because of some sinister fair, right agenda, but because they see a party willing to challenge the status quo and fight for policies that actually improve their lives.
I have questions on another topic, but I know Lee wanted to come in. So.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Simon. Hi, guys. Just one question from me. Put foreign offenders aside and Albanians aside, just forget about those numbers. How many people travelling on small boats that's been refused asylum have been sent to a third country or back to their own country over the past 3 years?
I don't think we have. I
think we'll write to the committee with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
That's staggering. That's actually
staggering.
Okay, then let's do it for the last year.
I don't have a number for non-Albanian,
Your officials are behind you.
non-FNOs.
Perhaps they might be able to help you.
Let's do last week then.
Do we have any figures about anything?
Yes.
In the last 6 months, just how many in the last 6 months?
As Simon said, there are charter flights and other ways of doing returns the whole time, constantly, and we can give you whatever timeline
and
return period you'd like.
aside, people who are coming here who are being refused asylum, because I'm sure there's a few. How many was sent back last month?
Have you got incoming?
We'll write to you with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I find it absolutely staggering that the big boss hasn't got a clue, not just on this question, but nearly every other question we've asked today. Why is that?
We've got that. I think Mr. Ridley's looking for the numbers, and we will send them to you.
Okay, that's me done, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Simon Fell.
Thank you.
Not long ago, Lee Anderson Imp posed a simple yet damning question to the civil service. What exactly did they accomplish last week? The response, or rather the lack of one, spoke volumes. The very institution responsible for keeping the government running, ensuring the efficiency of public services, and supporting the elected leadership of the country, was unable to articulate what it had done. This glaring failure is not just a moment of embarrassment. It is a testament to the deeply ingrained culture of inefficiency, complacency, and bureaucratic inertia that has come to define the civil service. For years, the civil service has operated like a bloated, unaccountable machine, insulated from the realities of ordinary British citizens. It is an institution riddled with waste, slow-moving processes, and an entrenched mindset that prioritizes red tape over result. The fact that its employees, many of whom enjoy comfortable salaries, generous pensions, and unparalleled job security, could not even list their achievements for the previous week exposes a fundamental rot at the heart of our government's administrative body. This is not an isolated incident. Anyone who has dealt with the civil service knows that it has become synonymous with delay, inefficiency, and a staggering lack of accountability. Whether it is the Home Office's failure to control illegal immigration, the Treasury's inability to manage public finances responsibly, or the NH bureaucracy's endless layers of management that hinder patient care, the trend is always the same: inaction, incompetence, and an aversion to any real scrutiny. The problem is made worse by the fact that civil service leadership is largely made up of career bureaucrats who are neither elected nor subject to the same pressures as politicians. While ministers come and go, these unelected officials remain in place, wielding enormous influence without facing the consequences of their failures. Their primary objective is no longer serving the public, but rather preserving their own cushy positions, protecting their own interests, and ensuring that nothing disrupts their stagnant way of operating.